Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, these years have gotten more intense each year since, I don't know, I mean, maybe the last 30 years. I don't know how long it's been, but certainly the last 10 years. The Trump time, the Trump time that Trump's been a politician. It's not an externally generated thing. It's not events that are making this happen. The events are a symptom. The changes that are happening internally to people. Everything's manifested from the inside out. And I'm not talking about just America. This is, I think, a global phenomenon. But in terms of news events, the way that that we're experiencing it, in terms of big events that are happening, whether they're calamities or something, big bombshell things, changes in a social structure, gender stuff, like all that stuff that happened, all these types of things, that it's just one bombshell thing after another. Things that would have been considered big stories years and years ago are nothing, and they happen quickly, and people move on from them. Sometimes they get no coverage at all. And so, on an internal level, I noticed a big change for me leading into 2025. All of a sudden, I became, I don't know what to call it, nostalgic, which I'm not. I started thinking about things I haven't thought about in years, like, sometimes meaningless things. There was this stuff that happened. One of my um, people that was went to my high school was recommended by Facebook, and I found all these other people that I went to high school with, and I had no real ties to high school. I don't think about high school at all. It's a big thing for some people and not so much for others. I mean, it's a big thing in general because of the time of your life that's, this is where you're transitioning into adulthood. But these things, that part of my life, my college and my high school, I barely ever think about. And even my childhood, more of my childhood than I think more about my childhood because of some of those memories. Like, I think I have more childhood stories I share here than these other stories. Um, but I don't think about them. There's no energy in them when there's no, they're just stories. They're just memories of like a past life without any emotional charge. And then a few things happened for me spiritually. My meditations became much more dynamic and intense. Better meditations. My wife and I started doing. I started giving her individual sittings. We did one yesterday. It was the best sitting. Today is Sunday, January 26th, and yesterday was the best individual sitting that I've done since being doing the gratefulness meditation. And they've just been getting better and better. I've been feeling all this energy at the central region, which is the sort of the final point in the spiritual yatra and transmission coming from there. And it's been really dynamic, like just really wonderful sittings. My meditations have been better, and the information that's flowing through me in these videos has been the videos have gotten better. And also, I've had some ups and downs and some negative things come up, some issues and things to deal with, and just some memories and some unpleasant things, and which is always the case. Like, these things always go hand in hand. And I had a good I usually do the sats on early Sunday morning, like at after midnight. In terms of the group meditation that people do with gratefulness meditation, I don't make a video about it because of the nature of the thing. People are able to meditate in the morning on Sunday as a group, and we do it at different times, but it's like we're all together. I started doing that. We started doing that when I first realized that Heartfulness, the transmission wasn't flowing like it used to. And that happened in 2023, I believe, around this time. So it's been 2 years since this thing started, February of 2023. Anyway, so I did a group meditation last night. It was a really good one. And I went to sleep and I woke up. I was a little bit restless and I had a little bit more energy. I don't say so much restless, but I just wasn't tired. I woke up and, these ideas came to me. So, how there's a lot of people who, if you talk to them, when you present any of the truther stuff to them, any of the so-called conspiracy theories, their biggest issue is the government would never do that. The government would never get away with that. People just wouldn't do that, right? And, your first hurdle, and it happens for all of us, when I really kind of woke up to this stuff, because I knew about some of it from my brother when I was like in my college years. And I knew about Christopher Columbus and some of these historical figures and some of the bullshit that they did and some of the lies, I read Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States that's about telling the story of history from the oppressed, right? Because the victors always get to tell the story. And so they leave out all the, stuff that makes them look bad, right? So, I knew politicians lie, all the stuff that we know. But, like stuff that we would consider pure evil, stuff that would be done by people that you'd have to really be a piece of shit to be a part of it, right? Some of the things that were done, the big event in 2001, to murder your own citizens, psychological operations and things. It's hard to believe that people would do that. Like you think, all right, these guys are greedy and they're, horrible people, but, going past a certain line, it's hard to believe, right? And so the reason it was not as hard for me to believe is that I worked in these treatment centers with kids who were considered sexually reactive in one and sex offenders in another. And they would have these intake files. And you'd have to read what their parents did to them or what other people had done to them and what they had done to other kids. And the stuff was horrible. Like it would turn my stomach. It would make me nauseous reading them. Like it's stuff, it was hard to read. Like it's stuff that you wouldn't, if I had a choice, I'd go back and never know any of the stuff, right? It's just stuff you're better off not knowing. And, I was watching this TV show I watched. There's like 7 episodes on Netflix called The Black Warrant. And it was really a good, well-done story about the jails in India. And like even in the jails in India, the class system and the caste system and the monetary system played a role where these people were treated differently. Like there was a guy who hired these 2 guys to, this is going to be some spoiler alert stuff, but really not. He hired 2 guys to kill his wife so he could be with his girlfriend. He was like a doctor and he had served the prime minister. And he was living a good life where he still got to see his girlfriend in prison, and the other 2 guys were going to be hanged, right? And, it goes through these various levels of corruption. There's a whole thing where the prisoners are freezing because they don't have any blankets in northern India off near New Delhi, right? So it gets down around, 30s, 40s, at night. And they're sleeping on cold cement floors, no beds or anything. And they have to share one blanket with 2 people. But they can't even do that because they bought these blankets and 3/4 of the blankets don't arrive because someone at the jail has sold them, right? So they're this corruption and taking money, and the prisoners are freezing and they go on a hunger strike, and it's a whole thing, right? They end up force feeding them and breaking them and all these things. A couple of them die, and some of the prisoners already should be released, like their jail time's over, and they don't even know because they don't have any legal representative. Number of the prisoners are innocent, like they're criminals who were picked up by the police and the police beat the shit out of them until they confess, which I saw in like another movie. Like it's just, everything I know about India and the corruption. Now, India is a great place spiritually. It just was it's the bedrock. It's the holy land, right, of the world. And it's had the, most influence on the spiritual development of any country. And it's in the bones of the country. And, if you go there and you experience it, it's undeniable. The spiritual energy and the ability to connect to God there. And they have a rich tradition, and not just their religion, but spiritual movements and just all of it in the culture. But right now it's a materialistic pit. I mean, just a mess. And the corruption and the bureaucracy and just all of it. And it's kind of icky. And the stuff that they'll do to each other and the way they treat each other based on the caste system and the hierarchical thinking, it's pretty dense. Like it's a hard thing to really understand. And the mass amount of people, right? When you have 1.4 billion people, or whatever it is, right? It's just, they can't feed everybody. It's a whole thing. Like it's a tough place, like intense place, because everyone's just fighting to survive. The majority of people. And then I was thinking about some of this stuff. So I'm up in the middle of the night thinking about this, and I was meditating. And I remembered my brother telling me. So my brother was a Vietnam vet, and he told me a bunch of shit that he had seen when he was a soldier. He wrote a whole book about it. He had guarded opium fields in Vietnam for this. The CIA was there. They were doing opium shit back there like they did with Afghanistan. The opium grows well there like it does in Afghanistan. This whole thing. And my brother was with prostitutes, and he ended up cheating on his wife, like chronically. I mean, it was a whole thing. Like, I found out this stuff later. Like, there was a break in their marriage, and he was just, he hung out with some criminals, and just, he had some. I mean, just all the stuff you'd see in Vietnam, and the things that he had been through there, and then all the rest of it. But then he started to counsel other vets. So this was when we both started doing the meditation. He got a job as a counselor. He was only a few credits away from getting his bachelor's degree, but he had, been a soldier, so they hired him as a federal counselor. And he'd go to these like powwows. We'd find these homeless vets, like Indian powwows. For whatever reason, these guys were attracted to it. Or some of these other places, he'd go and find these guys who were, they were barely functioning. Many of them were like homeless, and they were so traumatized. And like but some people would come in and be counseled, but he'd try to find these people and bring them in because they were struggling, but they didn't know about some kind of, federal government, VA services that they had, and they were all, fucked up by the war. And he was like finding these guys. He started telling me stories about some of the things these guys either participated in or saw. And there was two events that stuck out that I remember. Like, he told me a whole bunch of shit, and I kind of wish he didn't. Like, I would have rather not known them. And they're so gross. I mean, this is like the worst things I've ever heard in my life. With all the stuff I've heard and read about these, intake folders and these kids' lives, and the stuff that you know about from working in that, with abuse and things like this. And then just all the other stuff that's in the world, all the bad stuff. The stuff that I heard from my brother was unimaginable. Like, I wouldn't even repeat it because, I mean, I don't want to. Like, it's bad. And I wouldn't saddle you guys with this stuff, like gross war stuff. And the stuff that happens in war is the absolute worst. Like, it's just people's darkest side comes out. And soldiers do things in war that, they wouldn't do normally. And then they go back to their suburban homes or their, whatever it is, their little towns. In America, my brother was saying that he had bullets flying over his head. He's reading a letter from my mom telling the refrigerator's broken, like things like this. Like, it's just this disconnect between the life you grew up with in America and what you have to do as a soldier, and then what people will do who are in war-torn countries. And it's just, really just bad. And the abuse that goes on there. There's been some, movie documentation. There's a movie called Tank that deals with this a little bit. A lot of different movies. Some of the horrible things that happen in war-torn countries where things are lawless, and, just all of it. And, I'd probably be better off. I mean, I'd definitely be better off not knowing these things. But the thing that is there is I understand the stuff that people will do to each other. People watch horror movies. There's a horror movie genre, and, the horror movies, some of them are so horrific, and some of them are based in real things. Some of them aren't, but people like watching that stuff, like the torturing and killing of other people. And, of course, there's these types of films, snuff films and things like that people watch this kind of shit, right? I mean, that's, and if you think about the fact that people get enjoyment out of the suffering of other people. I mean, this is part of the Passion of the Christ and all the blood and the way all the, the various disciples were killed, and just how this was, at that time in that place. But it's, there's an obsession with human sacrifice that still goes on. Stuff with abortion. There's these pictures you can see out there, and I wouldn't recommend anybody look at them because, I mean, they're horrific, of, late term abortions and things. The carcass of the fetus, the baby, and just all of it. And like, so, this is what humans will do. Humans will, I mean, there's one thing killing for food, but there's the enjoyment of killing. Killing for killing itself, just murderous. And there's one thing to be a carnivore and another thing to be a murderer, right? And so there's, two different things there. If you're going to eat what you kill, there's something there. But then just, the killing and oftentimes, the unpleasant, the torturous aspect of killing where there isn't a clean shot and, the animal suffers and all these things, right? But in that sense, life on planet Earth is brutal. But when you understand what people do all the time, like just get a sense of it, never mind, know all of it. And there's probably all these things out there, unimaginable things, the things you couldn't even imagine that people will do to each other. And so, I'm aware of that stuff. So when something comes up, and in terms of what the government might have done or what corporations might have done, there's no sense in me that the decency of human beings would preclude or block that from happening. Oh, that can't be because people wouldn't do that. Like, I never think that because of, the information I have, things that I know that have happened, and, things that I've seen already through just what I cover here. There's nothing that isn't on the table in terms of people mistreating other people of the earth or anything, themselves or whatever it is. There's no level of depravity that people won't go. I've seen the other side of this, the third master of the Sajmark system, spending time with him and seeing his life and his effects on me and other people, and sacrificing his physical energy for the spiritual upliftment of the people. And so many other saints and higher developed souls that are in the Sajmark system. And I've met other good people outside the system, have lived good lives and have done wonderful things, and, who are like beams of light, right? Who are uplift people around them. People around them just do better. They're just, they bring out the best in people. And so I've seen both things, like the extremes. And I know what human beings are capable on a spiritual level. And even, there's different levels to that. But in terms of, people who embrace the divinity within them and are just really wonderful people who are, like I said, saints, angels, people who are lights in this world of darkness, right? And so right now the depravity is winning out. Like, there's more grossness, there's more, bad people. Everything's trending towards bringing out the worst in you. But we all have a potential Satan in us. And then we have these, demonic people in us as well, potential demons. And I don't know if I said this in a video. My wife and I were talking about this a couple days ago. But, I have a place here where we have a farm, and there's a potential we could have a gathering here for the Gratefulness meditation. There hasn't been really much interest in it. People do the Gratefulness meditation. But the gatherings are substantially better. And, spiritual gathering. Or I could participate in one someplace else. There's been one or two people who wanted to show interest, one person particularly who went to a gathering who wants to have these things happen again. But, the fact is that I've seen people turn on me or other people. It's covering the flat earth stuff. And, the way that people turned on Jesus and the way that Kamlish turned on Chargy is probably maybe the worst thing I've ever seen because of the higher nature. What this, the third master of the system, Chargy, he had, Kamlish was one of his, people that was in his inner circle. And he made Kamlish his successor. And Kamlish just has been horrible to Chargy's legacy. And there's a whole thing there, the Indian guru. I mean, it's a whole level of, it's a whole thing. And the way that he's treated him and his legacy and the way he's destroyed the whole system and for his own personal gain, what a clown he is and an idiot and just like a buffoon and just all of it. And this happens throughout spiritual traditions. People who are disciples turn on the, their masters or gurus, whatever it is. We know this about Jesus and Judas and Peter and, doubting Thomas and things. And then all the people that were, participating in the crucifixion who had been at Jesus' feet and benefiting from his spiritual energy, and the people that, are spitting at him and cheering his suffering. And this kind of shit happens all the time to spiritual people, to saints, and then people in general. People stab you in the back, they turn on you, they cheat on you, they cheat you, they do whatever. They lie to you and they manipulate you and so things aren't looking up for humanity. And so my commitment to this in terms of doing the gratefulness meditation and all these things is limited to my, just not being able to deal with something like that. Like at this point, after all the things I dealt with my ex and my family, my kids, and all this stuff that just, turned out to be a disappointment would be a huge understatement. And then just all the rest of it. And so it's a dark time in human history, and you can't expect people who are, bankrupt and just have no moral compass, and especially these kids growing up in this time and all these things, to elevate themselves to behave like, humans, because they're not being trained to do so. There's no support for that, and everything's being dragged down, and the system is, imploding around us with whether people realize it or not. And everybody realizes it to a certain extent, right? So this is, almost like everyone's going to have to enter survival mode in the near future. And the only thing that's keeping us from doing that is that we still have food in our grocery stores and we still have everything, in terms of our lifestyle. But as soon as that disappears, whatever reason, war, whatever stuff that's going on, that's going to cause people. I mean, you see these things now with the fires and the COVID and the other things, and but any kind of mass population reduction and a total shift in our lifestyle, and then people are going to enter into panic and survival mode, and just being able to get through this. This idea of pockets of the future is being able to somehow navigate the collapse of a system we're all 100% dependent on. And I can't stress it enough, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And that's great, but I mean, things are going south anyway, right? And so it's going to happen at some point because all civilizations collapse. And it's something you have to prepare yourself for. It's not something you could just deal with when it happens, right? Like ignore up until the last second, and then, people won't even accept it after it's happened. People go into a state of shock. They'll curl up in the fetal position and they'll pretend that everything's fine when it's clearly not. And they just won't deal. They'll just check out, right? And that's, the majority of people are going to do that. And so this is something that, our souls chose us to be a part of. We're living in a time where there's a collapse, an apocalypse that's, that's just there waiting for us. And there's reasons for it. And one of the things to remember is that we brought this on ourselves. Like, some things just happen anyway. But there's a reason why we're participating in this. And part of that reason is a redemption, like being able to redeem ourselves for going against the divine order and going in a direction that was, an egotistical, demonic direction, and embracing a system that is ungodly in every, way, shape, or form. Anyways, just thought I'd give you this cheery message, and then we'll, let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, today's Monday, January 27th, second introduction here. These are both going in my Journey series, 177. So I got some news yesterday, and it was not good news. It was, no health-related thing, nothing to do with my wife, nothing, that's, it's just old stuff I didn't know about, something I thought I had nipped in the bud and didn't. And it was, the kind of stuff you find out. I can't talk about it and don't really want to. But it's affecting me, so I wanted to talk about it here. It relates to the truth. So there's some family stuff that got brought up maybe 2 months ago. And this information it was like a key or a missing piece of the information that kind of made everything else make sense. But it's something like once you find it out, like it has all these other implications. It has all this other stuff starts to make sense, and it's not good shit though, right? It's like the kind of stuff where, I went to bed thinking about it, had trouble, going to sleep. Did a cleaning, did a sitting, ended up going to sleep, and then woke up and like, oh my God, that thing's really still true, right? It's like one of those things where, you wake up like, oh my God, I have to deal with this. Like, this has happened to me numerous times. And, it's a real bummer, but like, I guess at some level glad that I know because it's just always there. Like, there's a couple things here. So, there's, I show these things in the conspiracy theory. Um, I have like I have all these compilations of my pictures that I have these different folders of, and one of them I think I have these things in there, which is about there is like this process of resolution where if you don't know something and it's until you know that thing, you can't resolve something, right? Like the human psyche, the human psychological process or our psychology, our mental capacity has to do with storytelling, right? And we want to resolve things. So, you have these cliffhangers in TV shows. There's something that the show lost it. Now, the show lost at no point. Like I, watched maybe first season, maybe a little bit of second season, and I realized they were messing with you psychologically by just they solve one mystery and then they give you three more unresolved things. And then your mind, and there's, this is back when the internet was first doing such things, where they'd be fan theories and Easter eggs and things like this, right? But it's this puzzle that they leave you, and leaving you unresolved psychologically makes you come back. There's people who do this with the borderline personality disorder. People with the borderline personality disorder. There's this psychological test called the thematic appreciation test. I think that's what it's called. It's called the TAT. And what it is these dramatic pictures. And when you show the pictures to the person, they're supposed to tell you a story of what's happening. And with people with borderline personality, they can never have the story have some resolution. Like it's some open-ended, cliffhanger type thing. And it's how they, deal with their inner dialogue, their inner world. And when you deal with other people, they're always creating these kind of situations where things are left unresolved. Things are there's just they keep people on the hook this way in relationships and things. And so it's a real fucked up thing. And so, the human mind wants things to be settled. You want the story to be over. And you want to have like a winner or a loser. And you don't want to have all these unresolved things, right? The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Buffalo Bills yesterday. And there was an obvious first down that the Buffalo Bills received. It wasn't as bad as some of the other games. But it was clear that they got a first down. And they didn't get it. And that changed. If they had gotten that first down, they probably would have won the game. It's just they probably would have scored again. They would have been up 2 scores, and it just changed the whole outcome of the game by them basically cheating them. And the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, they're always getting these calls now, like they want them in the Super Bowl. It's better ratings. It's better the Taylor Swift factor, like all these things. And so they just, they're always getting the benefit of the doubt. Everybody knows it. Like it's some kind of thing, right? And the problem with that is, like, you get this sense of, like, their victories aren't clean, right? They've had 2 victories in the playoffs. Both of them, they're marred, right? There's some extra thing. And that's the problem, what you don't want to have with sports. Because sports, like, there's a winner and a loser, and you want the winner to be clean winner, that they deserve to win. There wasn't any sort of controversy and all those things, right? There's just some level of stuff you don't know about, right? And so, I've had things like this with my ex, and where there's just all these unresolved information. And then when I got the information, I had to unpack it, right? And there was residual effects that are still affecting me even today because of the madness and psychosis that was involved that, was going on for generations, and whatever, this genetic line and family and whatever kind of stuff it was. And so when I was in India, my ex and I were she wanted to homeschool the kids, which was her thing, and also wanted to live on a homestead, and which I was like, I like that idea, and I supported this way for my family, and I thought it was the best possible way. And then I was like, well, this should be an intergenerational family farm, and I had this whole vision about it, right? And so it was things that I was supporting her, her original kind of vision, and then my vision within that, and my, reading of the situation and seeing like the long term benefits, and that my kids would build houses around we would have a family property, and I've seen it. I've met people who had done that, and it was like a whole thing, that they would support each other, the way families used to, because that's something that's missing, drastically needed thing in our society. And when I was in India and the whole thing collapsed, I was, I had access to information about my ex's internal world, and I realized that she never was committed, or some part of her was sabotaging that goal, and that was never it was never on the table to be successful, which was a real shock. But then I realized that she was creating narratives within our community, within herself, within the family, that when it did shit the bed, I would be blamed. Like she was already, early on, like it had gone on for years. And I don't know if it was something that was unintentional. I don't know what, right? It was just like but yeah, I could see it like through the process of my discovery. And it was, it took like maybe some weeks to unpack all of it, right? And it was not pleasant. Like it was, realizing I was living a lie, and there was no way that we could have been successful. And I just threw away 18 years of my, best years of my life and my energy into something that couldn't be achieved. And then having to deal with the after effects and, change the plan, not only for myself, but more importantly for my kids, who now had to live more natural lives. And this thing wasn't going to be an option for them. It was no longer a valid support system. It was kind of the opposite. And they needed to go out in the world and just be away from it and start over and live their own lives, and recover from the issues that the family had, the whole thing and all of it. Like, so it was just a complete slap in the face, right? And so the information as it came to me, like it, had to be unpacked. And so it wasn't great information. In fact, it was horrible, but it was necessary, and it was just, I had to deal with it, and it was overwhelming because I had to reinvent everything. I was in my early 50s, and again, I was worn out, and just putting all this energy, going all in for something. Like this was like, all right, we're going all in on this thing. And then it was like, well, this thing had never ever had a chance to be successful. There's been some success because a lot of what I learned, a lot of what I went through has been helpful in these videos, right? And I went through cleaning too, which was the real success on a spiritual level, right? So there's all those things. And with all these kind of issues, there's always like spiritual benefit. Like my meditations get better. I go deeper into my spiritual life because my material life is just, it's just unpleasant, and just, it also, it really motivates a person for liberation to get off this miserable planet when you go through something that's, fucked up. Like it just is. Like you're like, oh my God, this is why people want liberation. This is why people, because it's not all there's no just happily ever after on planet Earth. It's always, loaded with other stuff. So the bottom line is there was stuff going on that I didn't know was going on. Like on some level I knew, but I didn't consciously know. That was, really bad stuff, and it was not good to find out about. But I did, and now I've had to deal with it. And going to the thing about being a truther, this is why the truth is, going back to when you originally wake up. And for me, it was when the big event happened in 2001, and I woke up about that in 2005. But I kind of knew about it, right? And there's a couple things with that, because this has happened to me again recently. When the thing happened in 2001, about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of it, I felt horrible, unsettled, like waking up with a sense of dread, and, just like something was like something was off, right? Which, I guess it helped me when the thing happened. I was prepared, like I'd already suffered it. And that's one of the beauties of like the Sajmark system. Like I didn't know something was going to happen. I didn't know specifically what's going to happen. But when it happened, I was prepared. And this has happened over and over again. And things that happen in the world and things that happen to me personally that are difficult to deal with, that are, that take some, that create a shock to the system. And so I get like, recently I've been feeling nauseous, like just, randomly nauseous and unsettled. And I was also like when I was, when you're a little kid and and you'd cry, and after you cry, you'd have this crying breath. And so there was some sadness, like I was dealing with sadness. And whatever the preemptive emotional response, it's very helpful because by the time I find out what's going to happen or what happens or what information I'm given, that's a bombshell. I'm already like just relieved because I'm already suffering. Like I'm like, okay, that's it. Like I know something's coming because it's happened over and over again. And it's just like, well, yeah, at least I know now what it is, right? So I'm kind of grateful for whatever's like going to put me out of my misery. And there's a parallel process here. It's something that's not a shock or a bummer for me, but it's along these same lines. That a few of my viewers comment that Trump also played Macho Man, and a bunch of people enjoyed me reading the lyrics. But apparently, Trump played a number of songs, including Macho Man. At There's a whole thing to do with that because Google lied about or misrepresented the release date, and I don't know why. Which it's what I originally thought. I was kind of weirded out that I had the time frame wrong, but Macho Man was there, when I thought it was. So, but anyways, the fact that Trump listened to Macho Man, it's a whole Village People renaissance, and it's a whole thing. And I'm going to cover it. I'm going to read another song's lyrics, which is kind of hilarious, this song, and I got to get into all that stuff. But it's an effect. It changes the whole, whatever it is, this "Make America Great Again" thing, and it's just weird, right? It's a weird thing for Trump to embrace as his theme song and his theme band, right? The Village People as Trump's theme band, and so it has a detail changes everything. Like it makes it like it. The implications are profound, like this one detail. Like if he was just listening to one song, it'd be one thing, but he's listening to all of it. Like they're playing it at the, all of this stuff. And I remember now that I think I saw it that day when he just started playing music because it was too hot in the place and the microphone wasn't good enough. So Trump was dancing and they played a bunch of music and they were just having some kind of weird, jam session with the Village People be at the center and they played Macho Man, some of these other songs. So, what I'm going through, it falls under all these categories of information that was necessary, something that was there, I was going to find out eventually, and I was going to have to deal with it. And it makes a lot of other things make sense. And none of it is like, it's just a depressing thing. It's just, there's nothing good about it. Like, there's just things that I see and realize all the time about humanity and about, all the things that I cover here and then in my personal life, that just like, oh yeah, that's just another fucking black mark on humanity, right? Like, just all of it. But I keep on trugging along and there's no reason for people it's nothing anybody can say or do that's going to make it better. Like everything has a shelf life and eventually it just, fades. I did do 2 of the sittings, the meditation, I'd have this. And the Gratefulness meditation, there's a playlist for intensive 3 sittings in one day. And I did one, it's a morning, afternoon, and evening, but I did one last night, which would be the morning one. And, they go in order. And I did the other one this morning, and I'll do the nighttime sometime in the afternoon today. And, whatever, and I'll continue to meditate. And the sittings are good, and my meditations are good, so it's like there's that. Like I've advanced spiritually. But it always comes with a price, and it just always does. All right, so let's get into the stuff here. Like I want to say one more thing about this. That there are things that are difficult to hear. There's things that are difficult to hear about loved ones or somebody you admire or an institution you belong to when you're indoctrinated about something or something bad about America or your religion or your school or your whatever it is, right? Things that you identify with. But the truth is the truth. And for better or for worse, this channel's about that, right? It's not about having some kind of group where we all agree with the same bullshit, right? We all, buy each other's lies and we all come together to create some other version of the mainstream system that's just as deceptive as the original one. Just going along with something that everyone kind of knows is false just because no one's strong enough to deal with it, right? And so in my own personal life, I've had to deal with these same things. There's times that all of us would rather take the blue pill and stick our heads in the sand, in the Matrix movie, take the blue pill and go back into the Matrix and forget everything that we know. Life would be a lot easier. It's easier for people, to just go along with the system and the lies and all these things, just to be a part of it. And, people who stand up against it, that's a whole other thing. But just admitting the truth that we're an evil empire and we do evil shit and every aspect of our system is based in materiality and egoism and corruption and the rest of it. And so there's no, there's a good part of our system that we all enjoy, the comforts, the things that we like about America or we like about our country or the world, the things that we look forward to, our hobbies and our guilty pleasures or whatever it is, right? But when I talk about like Christianity or Trump or any of these things, it's with the same with the same kind of stuff that I deal with personally. That I don't I just accept the hard truths to whatever extent, work through them. And there's times that I don't want to hear something. Like I'd rather not know. Is this just feels overwhelming? There's too much, right? Whatever things that are more personal, things that have to deal with things that are directly related to me, and just all of it, right? But I've had to deal with that with this guy Dodgy. I had to deal with this with my ex, and things that were, painful to realize, right? Just really sucky, and things with my family and the rest of it. My daughter's suicide and all the things that led up to it. All these things, right? It's just these things are a nightmare. It's not stuff that you really want, but truth is truth, and being able to just not react in some way to shut down the truth is, that's the bare minimum that you could do. Like whether you could just go somewhere else, but if like you're emotionally upset about something I say, I'm not expecting anything more out of you than I expect out of myself. I'm not demanding anything more out of you. It's the stuff that I've gone through personally, the things that I've had to realize about every aspect of my life and the system that we're all a part of. And I expect that everyone else who comes here will be able to do the same thing. That you somehow, I'm not somehow much stronger or better equipped to deal with this than you are, right? Each person should be able to, knuckle under and just, deal with this bullshit that we all have to, that we've been piled on in our internal world and the rest of it, right? Anyways, let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so let's start here. Trump's biggest issue was Israel, as was RFK Jr.'s. And it was the one thing that Biden and Kamala Harris were slightly better on. And now that they're out of the way, Israel is cooperating, and they're the bully in this situation, and the Palestinian people, and the murder of I don't know how many children now, 20,000 or whatever, but just civilians in general. Children, of course, always a bigger deal, but it's always civilians and all these things. 40,000 civilians, right? And all the atrocities that have happened with one country having an army and a military and the other one not, and the bullying and the land grabs and all of it, right? But Trump said this.
For female Israeli hostages. They've been captive in Gaza for 15 months. Israel released 200 Palestinian prisoners. We've been very involved in this issue, yeah. Senator. Last night, when talking...
Okay, so we have two... she is a Jewish person who She had a few moments of talking a little bit of truth about Israel, Dana Bash, but mostly she's, on the side of the Israeli side, right? And this guy is one of the biggest Israeli shills, Lindsey Graham. And they're both baffled by how fucked up Trump's thing he said here, right? What she's about to read.
Talking about Palestinians who live in Gaza, President Trump said he wants to, quote, clean that whole thing out.
Clean that whole thing out. See, Trump has been more pro Israel than any other president. He's been the best president for Israel. Netanyahu said it, Bibi. And these guys, like, look at her face. Like, that's a fucked up thing to say. Like, you might believe it. It might be something that people believe or want to happen, but you wouldn't say it out loud. And Trump said it out loud.
What does that mean?
I really don't know. I do know this, that Hamas needs
Let's have her say that again here. It's worth repeating.
Whole thing out.
Let's go back.
Clean that whole thing out. What does that mean?
I really don't know. I do know this, that Hamas needs to go. All these guys with masks on and guns, they're scum, and I hope they're dead men walking. What they did.
They're scum. But, the people who murdered 20,000 people are what America has done by murdering 1 million people in Iraq. We're not scum. They're scum, right? Only though those guys, when they murder, they're scum. When we do it, we're the heroes, right? Like this attitude. It's the fucked up attitude. It's what's going to bring down America eventually. It's what bring down every empire. It's, where you give yourself permission to murder people because you call them scum and you kill lots more of them than they kill of you. And anybody who disagrees with you is a piece of shit. Only governments can kill people. It's okay for Israel to go and murder all these Palestinian children. It's okay. They're good people. They're great people over there. The people who are doing that, the military and the government, right? But if you go against that, if you have you don't even have an army. Like you're Palestine, you don't have a fucking army. I documented this when this first happened. They don't have an army. They don't have an air force. They don't have a navy. And Israel, for a small country, is one of the most sophisticated militaries, where everybody in the country has to serve in the military. They're organized, and they have the backing of the strongest military, the best military in the world in America, financially and with weapons and training and the rest of it, right? And support, American support. And these, people in Palestine have nothing. They're getting bullied. They're getting the land stolen, all this bullshit, right? And anybody who goes against this is like a terrorist and a bad person and scum of the earth, right? And listen to this motherfucker here.
They're scum, and I hope they're dead men walking. What they did to those 4 young ladies, parade them in front of the Palestinian community. And
20,000 dead kids over there. And then all the kids who are suffering and families that are suffering, they have no internet, they have nothing, right? They have all their water, they don't have any of this stuff. Their infrastructure has been taken down, and all this stuff's being withheld for them.
Put them on the world stage was disgusting. My heart breaks for what they've gone through. So the idea Hamas survives is a non-starter for me. But the idea that all the Palestinians are going to leave and go somewhere else, I don't see that to be overly practical. I don't know.
So this guy with John McCain was one of the biggest Israeli shills. He's one of the worst. This reporter is also, and what Trump is saying is too much. Like he wants to have, ethnic cleansing. Like Trump's talking about ethnic cleansing, right? Like that's how fucked up Trump is.
What he's talking about, but go talk to MBS, go talk to the UAE, go talk to Egypt. What is their plan for the Palestinians? Do they want them all to leave?
You've been going there. What is the plan?
Well, I think they want the Palestinians to be able to live with dignity and security for Israel.
But you got to get rid of Hamas first.
You can't do this without getting rid of Hamas. You're dead right. Hamas is the problem for the world, not just the Palestinians, but
no, they're not the problem for any of the rest of us. The problem is that they're an Israeli asset, so Israeli government can do this bullshit, right? We've seen this before.
The question you asked is a good one. Does the Arab world support sending all the Palestinians out of Gaza? I'd be surprised if they did.
I want to turn to a moment.
That's how fucked up Trump is, right? That's how far gone he is that these guys can't even support what he's saying. So this was Dwight Howard. This is Dwight Howard. He's been out of the NBA now for a while. He was a dominant center for a while, a piece of the Orlando Magic, and then he sort of bounced around the NBA. He's had some controversial personal issues, but he said this happened to him.
Yeah, it's just really just being able to speak and not like I think when you're in the NBA, it's a lot of things that you want to say that you could say, but you know if you say it, there's gonna be repercussions. You could get in a lot of trouble. For example, a couple years ago when I played for the Houston Rockets, I tweeted "Free Palestine," and I dang near got kicked out the league for it. And I'm like trying to figure out why. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, obviously, before that, the conversation happened with some Palestinians and they were telling me.
Okay, so one of my viewers sent me a short clip of this, and I went and found the whole clip. And there was a specific clip put out by the Young Turks. You know, that's a liberal, whatever they are. But they're, you know, they're Turkish, so they're somewhat anti-Israel or whatever. And they provided the newspaper articles that supported his story here. That his tweet was only up for 10 or 15 minutes, right? That's how quickly he had to delete it.
I actually went to the movies one day. I was in the movies in Houston. A whole bunch of Palestinians was like, "Hey, man, we're big fans of you. Can we watch movies with y'all?" So I'm like, cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in Houston and Orlando and a lot of cities I played in, I would take fans to movies. I would take them to main event, do big events at David Buster's and stuff like that. So we go to the movies. After the movies, I'm taking pictures with all the, you know, fans and stuff like that. And they asked me to just bring some awareness to what's going on in their country. So, you know, me having a big heart, I'm like,
the Christian thing to do.
Yes, I'm like, you know what? I want people to know the struggles y'all having. You know, I don't think it's.
So I don't know what the time frame when his career. I don't remember when he played in Houston. He played with L.A. He won a championship with LeBron during the, you know, whatever year that was. It was one of the COVID years. And he was in, I think, Washington or Philadelphia for a while. So this is maybe, it's before what's happened recently.
Wrong. So I tweet "Free Palestine." Less than 10 minutes after I tweet that, I get a call from the commissioner of the NBA.
Stop it.
Agents, people like working with my foundation at the time, Texas.
So I covered this in my other channel, the Apocalypse Now channel, with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving tweeted out a book that was about how black people were the original Hebrews. I'm sorry, video that was up on Amazon. Not a good video, not well made. A lot of, you know, flaws in it just in terms of thinking, and, you know, it's not quality. But Amazon put it up there for people to pay some money and watch it. And Kyrie Irving is, you know, believing that Jewish people, the first Jewish people were black. Of course, they would be Middle Eastern at least, you know, dark skin. But he, you know, whatever this was, it's called Negroes to Hebrews or Hebrews to Negroes or something like this. And it says some things that are considered disparaging towards Jewish people. But Amazon still has it up there. As far as I know, they didn't take it down. And Kyrie Irving was slammed for just sharing this thing. And he wasn't sharing every detail about it. He wasn't sharing. I mean, Mark Cuban, who's Jewish, is now the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. So this Kyrie Irving just has a good heart, and he's like one of those guys in college who wants to make the world a better place or whatever. I mean, that was his response to all this, right? But they savaged Kyrie Irving, and this is post-COVID with the vaccine thing with Kyrie. And they fined him as, you know, the owner of his the team at the time, the New Jersey Nets, went after him. They fined him over, you know, $2 million, $5 million, $6 or $7 million, because he was suspended for a number of games because he tweeted something, right? So this is, and it was deemed as anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish, and it clearly wasn't. And Kyrie Irving spoke about it and cleared it up, but they still went after him. But they didn't go after Amazon, right, which it has the video on their site.
You got to erase this tweet. You got to take this down. You're going to get it. I'm like, what did I do that was so bad?
Can somebody explain to me?
Yeah, can somebody explain? You know, and it was just like because I went against the grain. I said something that people didn't like, and now
Not people didn't like, they didn't like.
So now it's
They
like
didn't like. The they is the important thing, right? So this goes with what Trump has, right? And I mean, the Palestinian people are being savaged. It's genocide. And, it's obvious. And there's, in the truth community, there is people who blame Jewish people for everything, which I don't subscribe to. And I've talked about this in depth. We're all a part of this thing. But Israel and Jewish people are a power block, one amongst many. And, there's often this saying, you find out who you can't criticize, and that's who your controllers are. And lots of people feel that way in the truth community. And yet they're Trumpers who feel that way, but also are backing Trump's. He wants to he wants to just take the Palestinian people and remove them from Gaza and turn that whole place into Israel. And then what's next after that, right? And so, this is, let's just see if there's anything else here.
I gotta stand on what I believe and how I feel and not go back on it.
Yeah.
And when you're in the league, you be in that place where
So there's that. So along with that, we got Elon Musk doing the Nazi salute, which I'll get into in a bit, and Trump's Macho Man stuff. But this isn't the exact commercial I saw, but it has the same thing that I want to show you. Listen to the side effects here.
With these health conditions, Arexvy does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients.
Did you hear that shit? Let me put that on. It's not for everyone. Let's listen to that again.
With severe allergic reactions,
Let's go back here.
protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients.
It's not for those who have severe allergic reactions to its ingredients. So you don't take it if you're going to have severe reactions to its ingredients, allergic reactions to its ingredients. So you may be allergic to some of its ingredients, and you shouldn't take it if that's the case. But since you've probably never came across the ingredients before, because you haven't taken this injection, then you won't know until you take it, right? Like, it's not like, there's things in here, whatever they're using in this medicine, right, is not medicine in air quotes, right? Whatever they're using here is going to be proprietary, and it's not going to be something you've experienced because it's something they've just made out of chemicals or whatever the fuck it's made out of, right? And so you don't know you're allergic to it because you've never had it before, because, it's not something you would naturally, it's not like peanuts or something. It's not like they put peanuts in there. And so, or they could, or whatever it is. But like, if you have to read the ingredients of this thing, in fact, I'll find the ingredients and read them. But that's the stupidest shit I ever heard. You shouldn't take it if you're going to have an allergic reaction to its ingredients. Yeah, but how would we know? Okay, so these are its ingredients. RSV, some of them include, it's not all of them. Look, this is just some of them. But I'll read them just for anybody allergic to RSV pre-F3. Are you allergic to that? How about AS01E or QS-21? That's a bad one. Plant extract from Quillaja Saranara Molina. MLP, mitofosorial lipid A from Salmonella. Is that Salmonella? Minnesota. They're putting Salmonella in this thing. It's Talahose dihydrate, a non-medical ingredient. Sorbate 80, a non-medicinal ingredient, not medicinal. Potassium dihydrin phosphate, a non-medicinal ingredient. Disotassium phosphate, disodium phosphate, androgenous cholesterol. Anybody allergic to cholesterol? Sodium chloride, some of these things are more. And water for injection. So that's some of their ingredients. And you got to know whether you're allergic to some of those before you take it. And you probably don't even know what those ingredients are because you never come in contact with them. And so some people are going to be allergic to it, and they're going to find out after they've gotten the injection. And they shouldn't have taken the injection, and it's on you for not figuring that out ahead of time. A recombinant prefusion F protein from the respiratory syncytial virus RSV, because the RSV is what it's. This thing's an RSV drug, and they've taken something from the virus, and they're trying to create immunity to it or whatever, antibodies. And so that's probably the big what they're, that's their claim to fame there. And the rest of this stuff is just, what they put in there for preservatives or whatever else. And so that's that's this thing.
Parts of Ukraine are little more than a pockmarked hellscape after nearly 3 years of Russian missile and ground attacks. Next door, while the physical damage is far less visible, the war effort has resulted in a financial crisis in Russia that may progressively worsen.
I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon.
U.S. President Donald Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with this conflict. And since promises to end it on day one didn't materialize, he's musing at putting more constraints on the Russian economy.
It was really strong message and strong signal. We need to increase pressure on Russia.
The mere threat of sanctions will ring loudly. While exports are still making the country money, domestic activity is strained with labor shortages and soaring interest rates.
So Trump wants to put sanctions on Russia.
This situation certainly needs to be addressed, said Vladimir Putin. But for now, the Kremlin is playing down Trump's threats. But in trying to force Putin's hand, the strongman approach is being received poorly by Russian nationalists and politicians.
They were probably much more hoping that the pressure was going to be exerted on the Ukrainians to give up, as opposed to the Russians to relent in their invasion of Ukraine.
Without concessions, Russia faces the risk of economic collapse. It doesn't want to see Ukraine in NATO, nor does it want to give back land that belongs to Ukraine.
Donald Trump will be the person associated with the end of this war if it ends during his administration.
Okay, so Trump wants to put sanctions on Russia, which I talked about already, because Biden already put some sanctions on Russia, and as did the UN, right? So, and it's another piece of shit move by Trump when this was what he said a Biden's fault, because what Biden did was he was pushing for the Ukraine to get into NATO, and that's something that Russia can't have on their border. It's totally understandable, right? It's totally understandable that they shouldn't have a NATO country right next to them, a country that they have tension with, and every time the Ukraine would attack or do something to Russia, then Russia's response would mean World War III. Because then that would mean U.S. would have to fight, would be on the hook, and we shouldn't want this either, for any kind of Ukrainian-Russian conflict. And this was a neocon war. They pushed for this fucking thing. It's a failure. Ukraine has been decimated. Their population has been decimated. Russia is left hamstrung. And Trump is trying to bully Putin instead of just saying, hey, we won't let them into NATO. Let's just, let's get this thing back to the way it was. They're not going to go into NATO. And, just saying whatever he's saying. Like Trump's always, he pushes for one thing, he's a carrot and stick kind of guy. And maybe he'll resolve this and maybe he won't. But if he does put sanctions on, that makes kids starve. Let's show you this here.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Okay, so this is Madeleine Albright, right? Madeleine Albright was Clinton's Secretary of State. And she's talking about Hard Choices, which is a book that Hillary Clinton wrote, a book called Hard Choices, right? And so they put sanctions on the Iraqi people, and 500,000 kids starved to death. And so just from sanctions. And so sanctions are considered better than war, but they create havoc and poverty for children. The whole closing down the economy put basically sanctions on all these countries that were dependent on exports and imports for their very survival. And because the world economies were closed down because of COVID, it was just basically like putting sanctions on those countries. and there was mass starvation, and God knows what else happened that they're not reporting on, right? And so whenever you put sanctions on a country, you're saying, we want your kids to starve. It's just a fucked up thing to do, especially when you're a piece of shit empire, bullies, whatever, like America is, right? And so, yeah, so this is battle in Albright, but this has happened over and over again. And this is what Trump wants to do to Russia. It's a fucked up thing. And, of course, what he's doing to Israel. And so Trump is, the one thing that I could say from his first term that he was good is he didn't do any of these illegal wars, and, he kept the peace. Even though they wanted to go in and do what they eventually got done in Syria and replace Assad. Obama was doing that. There's all those illegal wars. He didn't bring to close the Afghanistan war because he didn't want that mess on his plate. He's very selfish. But he didn't do anything more. He didn't create any more wars. He didn't put those neocons in, and he was good at the sort of non-war shit, right? Even though he came in saying that he was going to use nuclear weapons if he had to, and he was flying a full North Korea-style military parade as his first inauguration, right? Like nobody knew what he was going to do, but he was good on this. Trump was good on war, but now he's coming in like a dick, and maybe he's doing it to push, whatever, Russia to the table. I don't know. Like we'll see how if it works out, it works out. If the Russian-Ukraine war ends and Trump gets that to end, it's a Biden-created mess, then, good for him. I'll praise him for that, right? If this is him, doing this bullyish Trump shit. But there's other stuff that Trump's done that isn't so great, like this thing with Denmark, which I talked about.
Okay. There are reports, Mr. President, that you spoke to the Danish Prime Minister and she told you Greenland is not for sale. Will you take no for an answer on that?
Yeah, who are you with?
CNN. Your favorite.
No, they're terrible. Honestly.
Yeah, but they are terrible, but you're fucking trying to steal Greenland from another country, right? You bully and bullshit piece of shit.
See, that's why they're going out of business. Or they'll be more cheap. Maybe some rich guy will buy them cheap. But it's just the tone of your question every time. I think Greenland will be...
It's a totally legitimate question. You've been talking about stealing Greenland and taking back the Panama Canal, which at least you have a case for the Panama Canal because American lives were lost with the Panama Canal, right? And so whatever, I don't know, and renaming the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, fine. You want to do that? That's whatever it is, right? But this is a country, small country in Denmark. You already fucked them over with your rhetoric about windmills, which, windmills are not great because they make a lot of noise. The windmills that I've seen, they work if you live in a windy place. It's a way to generate energy, which is, using the wind. They're not horrible. Like he's saying that all this shit that he does environmentally, killing all the birds. You see birds all the time just on electrical wireless. He doesn't give a shit about wildlife. He doesn't give a shit about the environment. He's an anti-environment builder. But, Greenland, you can't take Greenland from Denmark.
Worked out with us. I think we're going to have it. And I think the people want to be with us. As you know, there's 55,000 people there that want to be with us. I don't know really what claim Denmark has to it.
It's their country, right?
It would be a very unfriendly act if they didn't allow that to happen because that's for protection of the free world. It's not for us, it's for the free world. Right now you have Russian ships, you have China ships, you have ships from various countries. It's not a good situation. And I believe we'll get that. Yeah, I do believe. I think we'll get other things too that you're talking about that nobody knows. But I think we'll get other things. But I do believe Greenland will get because it really has to do with freedom of the world, not just freedom of...
See, Greenland is, if Denmark is a part of NATO, and Trump's a part of, America's part of NATO, Trump is always wanting them to pay more money. But they can put American bases in anything with NATO. There's plenty of places in Greenland for all that shit, right? Naval bases. And it's basically it's not green. They named Iceland, which has natural geysers, hot water coming up, like natural hot springs and shit. And it's a beautiful place, vacation place, right? People go there. and there's all this health stuff, and there's a very small country, and Greenland's big, but Greenland's frozen solid. Like Iceland's more green than Greenland, right? But they didn't want people going to Iceland, so they called it Iceland, and they called Greenland Greenland. But like you can't, they have like a month or two of like a growing season where they could have grass and cattle, and it's very harsh conditions there. And it's a freaking mess, right? It's just it's a big glacier basically, So, if they're a NATO country, they could all this stuff could happen without America just taking the country. I don't know if there's oil there, whatever fuck Trump wants to get out of it. I mean, he's always pushing for stuff, and he's bullying the Danish people, and it's fucked up, right? Like this is evil empire shit.
It has nothing to do with the United States, other than we're the one that can provide the freedom. They can't. They can't. I mean, they put 2 dog sleds there 2 weeks ago. They thought that was protection.
Are the other things Canada and Panama?
You know what the people don't like? The people don't like the way they've been treated by Denmark. They don't like the way they've been treated.
So you're an expert over there? Like, so, this is Trump. Like, he didn't know anything about Greenland until he did, and now he's an expert, right? And he's selling this shit to people, and, his supporters will buy it because they won't see through his bullshit, right? So, like I said, I saw Trump dancing to Macho Man, that one, I believe in that one, the power, the air conditioner wasn't working and the microphone wasn't working. So he had a rally and he just played music and he danced, and it was sort of some celebratory thing. But this is at Mar-a-Lago, and so he's doing his dance to Macho Man there. He wants to be a macho man. And so, they play this song all the time, right? So I'm going to reread the lyrics to this, and I'm going to show Trump dancing. I have a compilation of him dancing. And, yeah, like that's going to happen. Let me show you this first, though. Okay, so remember I searched here Macho Man song release date, and Google said it was from 1991, and it's the album The Hits, so they must have released like a best of album. And so it's not a lie, but it's not the truth, because I searched this here, and the Macho Man song video here was from 1979. And this was remastered in 1978. And so the single was originally released in 1978. And it's the first single. Like, I remember that being the first single. I knew it was before high school. Like, nobody in my high school listened to this. I mean, it's really bad music. And then there's the agenda here. There's a pro-gay agenda, which, is over the top. And it's the whole reason. Like, I think the guy who created this band, it wasn't necessarily for everybody. It was for people in the New York area and the gay community and, people who was subscribed to that kind of lifestyle back then in the 90s, right? And so, I don't have a problem with people, being prideful about their demographic, but it became something that was, not really understood by mainstream people in America. These songs that came out, right? There wasn't like a, where they put like little blurbs and, stuff now on YouTube, and they used to do it on Facebook, where there was some information, because back then there was a completely different attitude to the LGBTQ, back when I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And so, they didn't put some kind of, it was just allowed to happen, and people got into and danced to it, didn't know what it was about, right, the whole agenda. And then they didn't really understand the lyrics and all the things, right? The YMCA is a place that gay men would go to hook up. And Trump's dancing to this, where he's just made this, there's only 2 genders, right? So he's pushing back against something that he really was responsible for its creation back in 2015 and 16. When he was president, he allowed that whole gender thing to be pushed through. He didn't say anything about it. Because Trump was a part of that New York modeling industry, this kind of culture, the elite level culture, where this kind of stuff was, Hollywood morality. Trump's a Hollywood morality person. And so he didn't have a problem with it. And then, of course, he did when He ran against Kamala because he could use it as a weapon. But he's, part of Making America Great Again, the theme song and the theme band is the Village People. And so let me read the lyrics here. So here is the Village People's albums. In 77, they released an album called The Village People. Go West in 79. Cruising in 78. And Macho Man in 78. So they released 2 albums because the songs suck. They were just cranking it out. And they had an album called Live and Sleazy, right? It's R&B soul. And so, so I remember the Macho Man song coming out first. And so whatever all this was, right? But, Trump being a part of this is kind of hilarious. So I'm going to read the lyrics to Macho Man again with Trump dancing, and then I'm going to do it with the song In the Navy. Okay, so let's read, here it is. Macho Man, song by the Village People from the album named Macho Man. Body. Want to feel my body, want to feel my body. Body, baby, such a thrill my body, such a thrill my body. Body, yay, yay, want to touch my body, want to touch my body. You got to say it twice. It's better when you say it twice. Body, baby, it's too much. My body, it's just too much, my body. Body, yeah, yeah, check it out. My body, check out my body. Body, baby, don't you doubt my body? 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 Body, yeah, yeah, talking about my body, talking about my body. Body, well, check it out, my body. Listen here. Every man wants to be a macho man. A macho man. To have the kind of body always in demand. Jogging in the mornings. Go, man, go. Workouts in the health spa. Muscles grow. You can best believe he's a macho man. Glad he took you down with anyone you can. Hey, 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 hey. Macho man, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. I gotta be a macho man. Macho man, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. Ooh. Macho man, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. Macho man, yeah, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. Then the whole body thing. My body is so hot, my body. It's so hot, my body. Body, baby. Love to pop my body. Love to pop my body. Body, yeah, yeah. Love to please my body. Love to please my body. Body, baby. Don't you tease my body. Don't you tease my body. Body, yeah. You'll adore my body. You'll adore my body. Body, baby. Come explore my body. Come explore my body. Very wholesome lyrics. Body, yeah, yeah. Made by God, my body. Made by God, my body. Body, baby. It's too good, my body. Hey. Hey with 2 E's. You can tell a macho man he has a funky walk. His Western shirts and leather always look so boss. Quite a stretch for a rhyme there, walking boss. Funky with his body, he's a king. Call him Master Ego, dig his chains. You can best believe that he's a macho man. He likes to be a leader. He never dresses grand. Hey, 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 macho man, yeah. I gotta be a macho man, I gotta be. Macho man, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. All right. Macho man, yeah, yeah. I gotta be a macho man. Macho man, I gotta be a macho man, all right. Body, oh yeah, body. Body wanna, body feel my body warm, feel my body baby, body, all right. Body, come thrill my body thrill, come thrill my body baby, all right. Body, all right. Body loves to funk my body. Body loves to funk my body. Body, baby, body, baby is so hot, my body, it's so hot. Every man ought to be a macho man. To live a life of freedom, machos make a stand, have your own lifestyle and ideas, possess the strength of confidence, that's the skill. You can best believe that he's a macho man. He's a special godson in everybody's land. Yeah, 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 hey. You know, they're bringing God into this. Hey, 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 hey. It keeps on going on here. Macho Man, yeah, I got to be a macho man. I got to be a macho man, mucho macho man. I got to be a macho man. Dig the hair in my chest. Macho man, can you see see my thick mustache, porn stash? I got to be a macho man, all right. I got to be a macho man, mucho macho man. I got to be a macho man. Dig broad shoulders, yeah. Macho man, dig my muscles. I got to be a macho man. Talking about macho man, mucho macho man. I got to be a macho man. Hey, I got to be a macho man. I got to be a mucho macho man. All right, I'm a man. Yeah. Kaboom. So that's Trump is endorsing this as part of making America great again. So the idea here is that in the late 80s, I don't know when Trump's time period is when he thought America was great, right? But it was in his lifetime. And so Trump's heyday was in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s with his show The Apprentice, right? So that's, we're going back 30, 40 years. And the music that he likes is from that period. This is from, the late 70s, early 80s, when Trump, I don't know what he was back then, right? When Trump was just starting to pop as a person there. And this is when he thinks America was great. And he thinks this music represents that time period. And it's fucked up music, and it's got an agenda. And it's kind of opposite what Trump's people believe in, especially the evangelicals and the rest of them. And he's pushing all this shit on people. And so without further ado, let's go to this other song here. So before I read In the Navy, there's a senator from Idaho. I lived in Idaho for about 6 months. And there was a senator from there. Not when I lived there. This happened, I think, afterwards. Very conservative state. This guy's a Republican. And this guy was very anti-gay, and he was in the Navy. The Navy has long had association with buggering, right? I don't know if that's what kind of term that is, but you guys know what it is probably. You can go look it up. There was a movie I saw, Rich Man, Poor Man, where this guy went to the Navy and this one sailor raped another sailor, his friend. There's a whole thing. There was a mini-series called Rich Man, Poor Man. I shouldn't have watched it. I was a kid, right? I watched Deliverance when I was a kid, too. Like, there's stuff out there that, I didn't even understand it, right? But the Navy has an association with this because you have men stuck on a boat, a submarine, right? What's long and black and has semen in it? A submarine. And so there's an association, with this kind of behavior in the Navy, right? And so this guy was in the Navy, and he was anti-gay, and it turned out that he went to Minnesota and went to a bathroom where guys would hook up because there's no YMCA at the airport. But he went to the airport where guys would hook up with other guys by putting their hand underneath the other guy's stall in some kind of circle as a hand gesture. And he did this, and there's a cop on the other side. He got busted, and it turned out he was a senator named Larry Craig.
Thank you all very much for coming out today.
Are you coming out, Larry?
I will read a statement. First, please let me apologize to my family, friends, and staff, and fellow Idahoans for the cloud placed over Idaho. I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport. I did nothing wrong, and I regret the decision to plead guilty and the sadness that decision has brought on my wife, my family, friends, staff, and fellow Idahoans. And for that, I apologize.
Why did you plead guilty, Larry?
In June, I overreacted and made a poor decision. While I was not involved in any inappropriate conduct at the Minneapolis airport or anywhere else, I chose to plead guilty to a lesser charge in hopes of making it go away. I did not seek any counsel, either from an attorney, staff, friends, or family.
That doesn't make sense, Larry.
That was a mistake, and I deeply regret it. Because of that, I have now retained counsel, and I am asking counsel to review this matter and to advise me on
Okay, so
how to proceed. For a moment, I want to put my state of mind into context on June 11th. For 8 months leading up to June 11th, my family and I have been relentlessly and viciously harassed by the Idaho Statesman. If you saw the article today, you know why. Let me be clear. I am not gay. I never have been gay.
only when he was in the Navy. So Larry Craig, at some point, said he was a wide guy. And I know where I can find it if this is in here. Let's watch this police report.
No, I'm not going to go to court unless you want me there. I don't want to be in court either. Okay, I don't either. Here's the way it works. You'll be released today, okay? Okay. All right. I know I can bring you to jail, but that's not my goal here, okay? Well, let's don't do that. I'm not going to bring you to jail. You solicited me. Okay. We can get into that. We're going to get into that. Okay. But there's 2 ways. Yes, you can go to court. You can plead guilty. Yeah. There'll be a fine. You won't have to explain anything, and no, and you pay a fine. You leave. That's it. Done. Or if you want to plead not guilty, and I can't make these decisions for you. No, just tell me where I am, because if you go not guilty, guys, I need to make this fly. Okay. And then if you go to not guilty, then I would have to come to court and have to testify what I saw. Okay. So those are the 2 things. Okay. Did I explain that part? Yes. Okay. Just gonna read your race real quick. Okay. You got it on. Yep. Okay. The date is 6/11/07.
Okay, so this is the initial part of the interview, and again, here's the what they agree about here.
At 28 hours. Mr. Craig? Yes. All right. Sorry about that. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer now, or have a lawyer present now, or at any time during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you without cost. Do you understand each of these rights if I explain them to you? I do. Do you wish to talk to us at this time? I do. Okay. I just want to start off with your side of the story, okay? So, I go into the bathroom here as I normally do. I'm a commuter through here, okay? I sit down to go to the bathroom, and you said our feet bumped. I believe they did. Because I reached down and scooted over, and
you reached down and scooted over, sitting on the toilet. The stalls, no matter how small they are, there's zero reason for your feet to be in the other dude's stall. Like there was just no reason for that, right? Like it just wouldn't happen without lots of effort, right?
The next thing I knew, under the bathroom divider comes a card that says police. Now, that's about as far as I can take it. I don't know of anything else. Your foot came toward mine. Mine came toward yours. Was that natural? I don't know. Did we bump? Yes, I think we did. You said so. I don't disagree with that. Okay. I don't want to get into a pissing match here. We're not going to. Good. I am not gay. I don't do these kinds of things, and that doesn't matter. I don't care about sexual preference or anything like that. Here's your stuff back here. I I don't care about sexual preference.
I know you don't. You're out to enforce the law.
Right.
But you shouldn't be out to entrap people either.
This is an entrapment.
All right.
Entrap people in a bathroom. So this cop's sitting in this stall in a bathroom, right? There is a bathroom in a mall, and one of my professors, who was from England, got caught there soliciting gay sex. It was a whole scandal, right? But this is the kind of stuff the YMCA, the Navy, this is all connected here. Macho Man.
You're skipping some parts here, but what about your hand?
What about it? I reached down my foot like this. There was a piece of paper on the floor. I picked it up.
Okay.
What about my hand?
Well, you're not being truthful with me. I'm kind of disappointed in you, Senator. I'm really disappointed right now. Okay. I'm not, just so you know, just like everybody,
Yeah.
I treat with dignity. I try to pull them away from the situation, not embarrass them.
I appreciate that.
And
you did that after I rolled up out of the stalls.
I will say every person I've had so far has told me the truth. We've been respectful to each other, and then they've gone on their way. I've never had to bring anybody to jail because everybody's been truthful to me.
I don't want you to take me to jail, and I think
I'm not going to take you to jail as long as you be cooperative, but I'm not going to lie.
Did my hand come below the divider? Yes, it did.
Okay.
So his hand went below the divider. So he didn't say that in the original story. So he put his hand below the divider into somebody else's stall. And he said because there's a piece of paper on the floor, he picked it up. It's just silly, right? Like this is, he was mocked mercilessly for this. I know Jon Stewart did a piece on him, right?
Sir, we deal with people that lie to us every day.
I'm sure you do.
I'm sure you do too, sir.
Gentlemen, so do I.
I'm sure you do. We deal with a lot of people that are very bad people. You're not a bad person.
No, I don't think I am.
So what I'm telling you is I don't want to be lied to.
Okay.
Okay? So let's start over. You're going to get out of here. You're going to have to pay a fine, and that'll be it. Okay?
Fine.
I don't call media. I don't do any of that type of crap.
Fine.
Okay?
Fine.
All right. So let's start from the beginning. You went in the bathroom.
I went in the bathroom.
And then what did you do when you went in?
I stood beside the wall waiting for a stall to open. I got in the stall, sat down. I started to go to the bathroom. Did our feet come together? Apparently they did bump. Well, I don't dispute that.
Okay, when I got out of the stall, I noticed other stalls were open.
They were at the time. At the time I entered, I stood and waited.
Okay.
They were all busy,
Were you looking at me while you were waiting? I could see your eyes. I say you plant your fingers and look up. Play with your fingers.
Did I glance at your stall? I was glancing at a stall right beside yours, waiting for a fellow to empty it. I saw him stand up, and therefore I thought it was going to empty.
Okay. How long do you think you stood outside the stall?
Well, a minute or two at the most.
Okay, so let me find the wide guy thing. But this is, Larry Craig. Okay, so the Daily Show doesn't let you stream their stuff anymore, anywhere. Just the last 3 seasons. This was from season 15, episode 70. I think they're trying to sell. I don't know why they're not streaming. I assume that they're selling DVDs or something. But this is The Banger. These guys are called The Bangers. These are 4 senators, John Ashcroft, Trent Lott, Larry Craig, and Jim Jeffries. Here's Larry Craig. See if we get Larry Craig singing here. Here he is. Okay, so he was in this fork. This is totally straight here. Larry Craig.
Security will be more assured, and we won't let the Venezuelas or the Nigerias or the Saudi Arabias or the Irans jerk us around by the gas nozzle the way they are doing it now.
The guy just keeps on, giving it to himself, right? Okay, so I don't know why they would hide this thing, but YouTube ended up recommending something I searched for a long period of time. More than I should have. But here's the interview. I think this is where he says, hopefully they have it here, that he's a wide guy.
June 11th, you are commuting back from here to Washington.
Like every weekend.
Like every weekend, he would go off and he would hook up with some gay prostitute in a bathroom. Every weekend, he would do that.
Routine. That's exactly what happens every week.
Every
And
week he
you
does.
end up stopping in a bathroom. It may be the most famous bathroom stop
I think you're right now.
of the last 10
Yeah.
years. You end up stopping in a bathroom in what's called North Star Crossing.
Yeah.
Were you aware at all, Senator, of the reputation of that specific bathroom?
Well, I certainly am now.
Were you prior?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No, not at all.
I walked into a bathroom. I walked into an entrapment and a sting that was going on.
To catch sexual predators that are looking for hookups with male prostitutes.
And I go to bathrooms to use bathrooms.
When Larry
That's all he does. I'm crazy like that. When I go to a bathroom, I expect just to go in there and use the bathroom.
told me that this story was going to break, and he hadn't told me about it before that, I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. It happened right here.
So you never ever once thought your husband was gay? You never crossed your mind he might be gay? Did you never? It never happened that he might be into dudes?
In this room. And I felt like, almost like I was going down a drain for a few moments.
Like a drain, a circular drain. You know, something where you might flush something.
Why didn't you tell her?
It was a tough call, Matt, a very tough call.
Tough call.
I've never been arrested in my life. I was very, very embarrassed about it. I wrestled with it.
It's really embarrassing, Larry.
I didn't want to embarrass my wife, my kids, Idaho, and my friends. I sought no counsel. I made a very big mistake. I should have told my wife, I should have told my kids, and most importantly, I should have told counsel.
You could resign, Senator, and you know what? It would probably go away.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be the same.
And Matt, that's the easy way out. You've talked
It's the easy way out.
about my history and my record.
You know, like admitting that you're guilty and taking a plea deal.
You know I'm a fighter, that I don't just walk away from.
Like I don't like not seek a lawyer's counsel and just plead guilty in the moment to get something embarrassing and, you know, outing me and
fight. This is the toughest fight of my political life.
Mitt Romney, John McCain, Peter Hoekstra, Mitch McConnell.
Sure.
You know, we have an expression in New York, they threw you under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like as a wife to see that happen, Suzanne?
It was, for me and for our children, I was very disappointed and very hurt to see some of the people that Larry's worked with and for and supported for years.
Forget working. These are friends, weren't they?
I was very proud of my association with Mitt Romney. I'd worked hard for him here in the state. I was a co-chair of his campaign on Capitol Hill, and he not only threw me under his campaign bus, he backed up and ran over me again.
Again he did it. Again, and I liked it. Kept on backing over.
And, you know, you kind of look and blink a little bit, and while they were reacting that way, there were another set of senators who were calling us and saying, what's going on? What can we do to help you?
Okay, so that is the interview, but somebody just posted the worst parts, or not the best parts. And this is from the actual interview. I can read it to you. And so Larry King, oh no, Matt, stall. Well, he says this, Matt Lauer. You're trying to picture how this, you're flashing back to every time that you ever sat in a bathroom, Larry Craig. Oh, I know, Matt, stall. And they're trying to think, can that happen? How close are you actually to the guy next to you? And this is that infamous wide stance, which I think was actually what I said was, I'm a wide guy, is the actual quote said. But they're thinking it's not that easy to touch the guy's foot next to you. And so how could it have happened? And Larry Craig says, well, it did happen. But where he says he's a wide guy, right? And that's classic. It's his classic thing. And so that doesn't exist on the internet. I can't believe it. I knew they had some clip of it in The Daily Show and other places because it was hilarious. But somehow they left all that out. But, you know, we got enough there to get the point. And here is the song "In the Navy." Anyways, Larry Craig was a conservative Republican senator from Idaho who was anti-gay and was always bashing the gay culture. He got caught playing footsie and putting his hand under the stall in a bathroom notoriously known for gay hookups. He got busted, pleaded guilty, was a huge scandal, came out and said, "I'm not gay," many times. I believe he was in the Navy. Most of the stuff's been scrubbed. The guy's been dead for a while. But without further ado, let's get into this song here. This is called "In the Navy" by the Village People, released in 1979, and it was from an album called Go West. Where can you find pleasure? Search for the world's treasure. Learn science technology. Where can you begin to make your dreams all come true on land or on the sea? Where can you learn to fly, play sports, and skin dive? Study oceanography, sign up for the big band, or sit in the grandstand where your team and others meet. In the Navy. Yes, you can sail the 7 seas in the Navy. Yes, you can put your mind at ease in the Navy. Come on now, people, make a stand in the Navy, in the Navy. Can you see we need a hand in the Navy? Come on, protect the motherland in the Navy. Come on and join your fellow man in the Navy. Come on, people, make a stand in the Navy, in the Navy. Ah. They want you, they want you, they want you as a new recruit. They want you, they want you, they want you as a new recruit. If you like adventure, don't you wait to enter the recruiting office fast. Don't you wait to enter the recruiting office fast. Don't you hesitate. There's no need to wait. They're signing up new seamen fast. They really like the seamen. Maybe you're too young to join up today, but don't you worry about a thing, for I'm sure there will always be a good Navy protecting the land and sea. In the Navy, yes, we can sail the 7 seas, all those things, where you can use a hand, and the rest of it. And it says here, but there's a chorus I'm not going to reread. But, I'm afraid of water. Hey, look, man, I get seasick every time it's on the TV. They want you. Oh, my goodness, they want you in the Navy. What am I going to do in a submarine? They want you. They want you in the Navy. They want you. Oceanography, what? They want you in the Navy. They want you. They want you. Oh, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. In the Navy. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. In the Navy. Aye, sir. Where can you find pleasure? Where can you find your treasure? All the things I said earlier. And that's just the chorus. So that's in the Navy. And, the rest of it. So Donald Trump embracing the Village People is just fucking strange. The whole thing is weird. All the things that I've said here. Let's move on to the next thing.
I should not have kept this arrest to myself, and I should have told my family and my friends about it. I wasn't eager to share this failure, but I should have anyway, because I am not gay.
Okay, so I've completed the rest of this video. I got to stick this in here somewhere. Not to quote Larry Craig. And so it's like 7 o'clock, 6 something, 6:12, and it's January 7th, 27th, Monday. So I completed the rest of this video. I was just going to put the last clips together. And YouTube keeps on recommending things. I search for all this stuff. This is the actual longer audio. It's better quality. And it would have been better if I received this, when I was searching, they recommended this in the first fucking place. At least they're recognizing what I'm looking for. And their algorithms and their search stuff's getting better. But the search sucked because I can't find the Matt Lauer thing anywhere. But this was the original thing where he says wide guy.
Who at the most? Okay. And when you went in the stalls, that one.
Sat down.
Okay. You do anything with your feet?
Positioned them. I don't know at the time. I'm a fairly wide guy.
I understand.
So that's, I'm a fairly wide guy, was savaged by the internet and other, comedians and things, right? Let's just listen to that again.
No, at the time. I'm a fairly wide guy.
I understand.
I tend to spread my legs when I lower my pants so they won't slide.
Okay.
Did I slide them too close to yours? I looked down once your foot was close to mine? Yes. Did we bump? You said so. I don't recall that, but...
Okay, you would totally recall that. If you're in the bathroom and another dude's foot hits your foot, you're going to fucking remember that, right? Unless it's something you do regularly, like solicit sex in a bathroom that's known for these things, right? Which is what happened here. And like the guy gets caught and he just was miserable about the whole thing, right?
Apparently we were close.
Yeah. Well, your foot did touch mine on my side of the stall.
All right.
Okay. And then with the hand, how many times did you put your hand into the stall?
I don't recall. I remember reaching down once. There was a piece of toilet paper back behind me and picking it up.
Okay.
Which is gross. You never, like, it's a public restroom in a frickin' airport.
Was your palm down or up when you were doing that?
I don't recall.
Okay. I recall your palm being up. Okay.
All right.
When you pick a piece of paper up, your palm would be down. When you pick something up.
Yeah, probably would be. I recall picking the paper up.
And I know it's hard to describe here on tape, but actually what I saw was your fingers come underneath the stall. So you're actually touching the bottom of the stall plate.
I don't recall that. I don't believe I did that. I don't do those things.
I saw your left hand.
I don't do those things. I don't stick my hand under the stall of another dude's another dude's going to bed. I just don't do things like that.
See the gold wedding ring when it went across. I could see that on your left hand. I could see.
Wait a moment. My left hand was over here.
I saw
my right hand was next to you.
I could tell it was I could tell it was your left hand because your thumb was positioned in a faceward motion. Your thumb was on this side, not on this side.
Well, we can dispute that. I'm not going to fight.
So he's not even sitting on the toilet. He's kneeling down, sticking his left hand under. So he's in the stall. The guy's on his right, and so his would have been his right hand if he was sitting down. So this guy saw his wedding ring, which is scummy. I mean, imagine his wife having to hear this thing, her denial. He sticks his left hand under with his wedding ring because it means he's facing the toilet or facing the guy's stall, and his foot's over there, touching the guy's foot, and he thinks he's going to have gay sex, and this guy's a cop.
You in court, and I reached down with my right hand to pick up the paper.
What I'm telling you is I could see that, so I know it was your left hand. Also, I could see a gold ring on this finger, so it's obvious it was the left hand.
Well, okay. My left hand was in the direct opposite of the stall from you.
Okay. You travel through here frequently, correct?
I do. Almost weekly.
Have you been successful in these bathrooms here before?
I go to that bathroom regularly in the morning.
He goes to that bathroom regularly.
For any type of other
No,
activity?
absolutely not. I don't seek activity in bathrooms.
It's embarrassing.
Well, it's embarrassing for both. I'm not going to fight you.
I know you're not going to fight me, but that's not the point. I would respect you, and I still respect you. I don't disrespect you, but I'm disrespected right now, and I'm not trying to act like I have all kinds of power or anything, but you're sitting here lying to a police officer. It's not a testament that I'm getting from somebody else. I'm experienced to this. I trained in this, and I know what I'm doing. And I saw you put your hand under there, and you're going to sit there.
I admit I put my hand down.
You put your hand and rubbed it on the bottom of the stall with your left hand.
Now, wait a moment.
And I'm not dumb. You can say, I don't recall.
If I had turned sideways, that was the only way I could get my left hand over there.
Remember, I'm a wide guy, so that would be impossible.
Not that hard for me to reach or my answer to that. It's not that hard. I see it happen every day out here now.
Well, okay, you do.
I guess I'm going to say I'm just disappointed in you, sir. I just really am. I expect this from the guy that we get out of the hood, but
you're really disappointed in a guy who goes into a sleazy airport bathroom and solicits male sex, and he's a Republican senator who's anti-gay. You're really disappointed Is his response like?
People vote for you. Yes, they do on a regular basis. Unbelievable. And I'm a respectable person, and I don't do these kinds of... And I do respect right now, though. But I didn't use my left hand. I rolled down with my right hand like this to pick up a piece of paper. Was your gold ring on your right hand at any time?
See, if you're gonna lie, why even bother admitting that you put your hand there?
Of course not. Try to get it off. Look at it. Okay, then it was your left hand. I saw it with my own eyes. All right, you saw something that didn't happen. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. I wonder why we're going down the tubes. You have anything to add? No. All right.
Okay, so just throw the guy in jail, and then they got access to this. His local paper in Idaho, they savaged the guy, and now he's a laughingstock. Okay, so Elon Musk gives a Nazi salute. I wasn't going to cover this, but it's gone back and forth, and YouTube's recommended stuff, and people are commenting about it here because he's just so weird and idiosyncratic. But let's start here. Let's watch this part.
There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Okay, so you did a lot more than I did, or anybody. Here it is. Boom.
My heart goes out to you.
So what he's doing there, it seems to be, is like taking his heart and pushing it out to everybody. Like he's not a heart-based person, but that's what he said, right? And the Anti-Defamation League and a bunch of the other Jewish organizations, including that guy Ben Shapiro, said that this is not a Nazi salute. It was just Elon being weird. Right, so let's watch it again here. I'll turn the volume off. But like he seems to be saying here, like he's going to go for his heart here. And he's, grab your heart, motherfucker. Come on, let's get going. Boom. So he hits his heart, he pushes it out. Then he touches his heart again, and he's pushing it out. And so then he puts his hand on his heart, he says, my heart goes out to you. And so...
It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
Okay. Bullshit. What are you talking about? It's 4 years. Even if Trump was as great as you claimed he was, your future is definitely bright. Your future, immediate future, and then going on, your future is very bright. Until whatever goes down with World War III or whatever. But, what are you talking about, bro? But anyways, it's not really a Nazi salute, right? It's just Elon, and maybe he was doing it like unintentionally or intentionally. He was doing it intentionally for whatever reason, just to be a douche. Who knows? Maybe they told him to do it. But what it looked like there was he was grabbing his heart and he was pushing out his heart to everybody. And he said, my heart goes out to you. And unfortunately, he didn't think about it being a Nazi salute. But then things changed, and it started off like where everyone's saying, of course, Trump wants to get rid of all the Palestinians. So he's as pro-Israel as you could be. And I don't think anybody feels any jeopardy from Elon and the rest of them in terms of like Elon's not a Nazi and he's not going to be president and whatever, right? But YouTube is constantly recommending Don Lemon. And so now I guess, well, let's just watch what Don Lemon has to say. Anything he says is worth covering because he's such a moron, right? Like it's bad.
Controversial salutes and Nazi jokes. At first, the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, which was the Jewish Defamation League.
What is it now, ADL?
They asked for grace about the controversial salute at the inauguration from Elon Musk. And then they took it back.
Boom. This is what they're saying here. Get out of the way, Don. Don't say Hess to Nazi accusations. Some people will Goebbels anything. Stop goring your enemies. His pronouns would have been he and Himmler. I guess there's more here. You can see it. Himmler. And so he doesn't really get out of the way enough, Don, like just classic Don. And so they were saying all these things here, right? And so, it just is really goofy. But Elon then makes it worse
I'm very excited for the AfD.
Tonight, growing criticism over a virtual appearance by Elon Musk. Musk beaming into a campaign event this weekend for Germany's far-right party known as the AfD. But it's this apparent reference to Nazi Germany's history that is drawing attention.
I think there's frankly, too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that. Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents.
His comments quick to receive backlash. The chair of Yad Vashem, Israel's memorial to Holocaust victims.
Okay, of course they're going to say that, right? So I'm part German, and my grandfather was German, but he fought in World War II against the Germans. He killed Germans in World War I and World War II because he fought in both of them, and we were at war with Germany in both World War I and World War II. My wife's part German, ancestry. Like, we don't speak German. I have very little contact with my German ancestry. My best friend from high school was half African American and half German. And he went to Germany in high school. He came back saying, he attended a soccer game with his cousin, and they were like a gang going through the streets. They were wearing these colors of their team, and they were just like going through the streets, just going to markets and grabbing fruit and throwing it at people. They were like completely out of control. And they got to the, after the game, they were in a bar, and they said that the other side's team was coming, fans, and there was going to be a fight, like a brawl. And it ended up being a bunch of cops with Rottweilers. And he was thrown into a German jail with all the rest of these fans for all the damage they had done. And he was not with his cousin, and no one spoke English where he was. He was like, kind of a bummer. And years later, I moved down. He had moved to be with his mom, who lived in Atlanta. And I moved down to Atlanta, and we ended up sharing, an apartment. And his cousin came over. This cousin came over from Germany, and my best friend from high school just kind of blew him off, and he was like, I'm sick of this guy. And the German guy talked to him, and he said, everyone's so superficial. He felt like his cousin. My friend was very superficial because he worked at some Holiday Health with his girlfriend, and they were like ultra salespeople, and just, they were kind of superficial. And we had a couple good conversations, and he had a friend that he met there in Germany, and like these two German guys, and I'm talking to him, and I brought up Hitler because I just, not in a dickish way, just, like what their feeling about it was. And they said it's like great shame for them. There's a constant embarrassment for all Germans, but most of the Germans didn't even know what was going on when that whole thing happened, right? Whatever, the Holocaust and all those things, they didn't know what was going on. They were, they were at war, and there was no media, and they didn't know anything about concentration camps and, all that stuff, right? But there's a big sense of shame in the country about it, right? That's what Elon Musk is referring to. And I know this from, my talking to some of these people.
Calling it an insult to the victims of Nazism and a clear danger to the democratic future of Germany. The remarks coming less than a week after Musk posted a series of Nazi-related puns online in response to criticism.
Oh, that was what he did. That was his stuff.
This gesture he made at an inauguration event, which some have interpreted as a Nazi salute. The Anti-Defamation League appearing to initially defend Musk, saying he made an awkward gesture, not a Nazi salute, but later called out his series of Nazi jokes, saying they only serve to minimize the evil and inhumanity of Nazi crimes.
Okay, so that's the Don Lemon stuff, right? So those were his tweets. But the whole thing is goofy. Just doesn't matter, right? Because there's been no president who's been more pro-Israel than Trump. And, we all know about how Hollywood and the ADL and the media are obsessed with the Holocaust, and it's like some kind of, only one group gets to feel victimized, but what Israel's doing to the Palestinians is just as bad. It's the same thing, right? Like, it's the same behavior. A superior military force has created an open-air prison, like a reservation, Indian reservation, apartheid state, and that's what Israel's doing in Palestine, but somehow they get to do it. But when it's done to them, it's, something else. It's just like every other group. People whine when shit's done to them, but it's okay for them to do it to the other people because they're the good guys and the other people are the bad guys, right?
Musk describing what he did as moving his hand from my heart to the audience.
You know, I didn't know he said that, but that's what he said. It was clearly that was what he was doing, unless he was just using that as a way to do the salute.
NBC News reached out to the White House for comment, but did not hear back. Musk, who has already played a key role in President Trump's administration.
Okay, so the whole thing's getting goofy here.
Senator Murphy. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Representative, for your commitment to the country and your willingness to serve. I deeply appreciate the work that you have done to combat anti-Semitism. I appreciate your commitment to bring that work to the United Nations. I think it is a cancer, both domestically and internationally. You and I worked together over the last year and a half to dramatically increase funding for the not-for-profit security grant program that sends money to synagogues and Jewish community centers to invest in security upgrades.
In Israel, give more money to Israel. Why not?
And that we need to do that, but it is an important moment to support those communities. I agree that it's a problem you will confront at the UN. It is also a problem, as you have raised, domestically, both on the right and the left. I think anti-Semitism work is best when we call out what's happening on both sides of the aisle. What do you think of Elon Musk, perhaps the president's most visible advisor, doing 2 Heil Hitler salutes last night at the president's televised rally?
No, Elon Musk did not do those salutes. I was not at the rally, but I can tell you I've been at many rallies with Elon Musk, who loves to cheer when President Trump says we need to send our U.S. space program to Mars. Elon Musk is a visionary. I'm looking forward to his work.
Okay, Jesus Christ. You just stop. So there's a trailer called Opus, a movie called Opus, in which John Malkovich plays an eccentric former rock star who's created a cult. It's kind of a weird trailer, but at the end, this is what happens.
What is it that you guys do?
Would you like to see?
The crowd is upset.
There's no cult-like celebrity.
Upset that I'm not on stage.
Is this not alarming to you?
The back row's asleep. But the front row's ready to rage.
Are you sure you haven't been drinking with us?
Okay, so you get the idea here. So that was quite a doozy of a video. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.